Very good afternoon, dear listeners. You're welcome to, of course, one of the biggest show in Africa Farmers Media. It's called the Farm Drive. Of course, here we are here to connect, learn, and grow. And what we do at Farm Drive specifically is talk about the market, talk about value addition, talk about post-harvest practice that happens every time you have your produce from your farm. And of course, might be your crops, might be your animal products, might be even the animal that you are planning to sell or even slaughter and sell. It's what we do here at Farm Drive. That's where it actually even comes even later in the day, because we believe that that's the time now you're approaching the market. And all we do here is try to create a pool of information so that even as you approach the market, you can be well informed, you can be competitive, you can offer competitive pricing, you can offer competitive produce. At the end of the day, you can make money out of it. Remember, in agribusiness, there's always the science and the business side of things, and we're here for the business side. Make sure that at the end of the day, you can go home with at least we can say you can go home with something in your pocket, and something good in your pocket. And as we always say, it's the right time to always treat agribusiness as any other form of business. Exactly, that's what we do here. Teach you how you can make money out of your farm produce post-harvest practice. Of course, today we are going to look into one of the most interesting topics. When we talk about value addition, we'll talk about packaging. But then, way before we can do that, at least you can share with me what you've been doing over the Easter holidays. It has been a very long weekend. It has been a short weekend for different people too. Depends on what you did. But one thing I'm sure is that people did travel, people did, even get religious, and of course, go out there, pray, and some also spend time with their families. What did you do? Because, well, people have done different stuff, but at the end of the day, we're here. At the end of at the start of the week, today is a Tuesday. Feels quite an interesting start because, well, being on Tuesday, it is a very interesting one. We are used to starting our weeks on Mondays. But then here we go. Our week has started on Tuesday. And of course, thank you very much for always waiting up for this show. But then I'm Farm Drive here at Africa Farmers Media. I'll be your captain today, Brian Wonder. I've always been your captain, Brian Wonder, of course. And I will be sharing with you packaging as an aspect of value addition. Of course, at the end of this show, we're going to also have our own our own A or B or any other business, where we look into the news of the day, where we look into things that are affecting us directly or indirectly, things that we need to keep tabs with. And even as we continue having interactions with the outside world, we as farmers, what we need to know and what affects us, and at some point must not be necessarily related to agriculture, but can be also related to your daily routine. But today we're going to talk about something that is directly affecting you as a farmer. And remember, we've always been talking about value addition. Value addition is that one thing that we do love to talk about, because value addition is it's like that magical thing that you do to increase your profit margins, to increase basically your profits, and to add an extra coin in your pocket. But instead of maybe selling at farm gate, instead of for example disposing your produce directly after harvesting, maybe you can think about a few other aspects. And one of the key aspects has always been the packaging. Did you know that you can make an extra 1 bob, an extra 10 bob, an extra 100 bob, or even 1,000 bob by just packaging? That is what many people are doing out here. As we always say, actually going a little extra, an extra mile in what you do in your farm, will always make sure that you can earn a little bit some extra coin. And in packaging, basically packaging, I know you know. Basically, I know you know packaging. We've interacted with, we drink so much water, from water bottles. We do buy, meat from butcheries. We do cook rice, by even buying rice from, supermarkets and stuff. But every produce that we do, take home, or every produce that we do take to the market needs to be, sorted in some sort of way in terms of packaging also. And packaging has always been one of the key differences in marketing your produce, in attracting different customers to your produce. And you will be really interested by this finding that 70% or even two-thirds of people, consumers, this was a study that was conducted, in Netherlands, some parts of Kenya also, that two-thirds of the population actually are convinced by the branding, are convinced by the packaging of how you do your stuff. So you can now start imagining that, that packaging, that branding thing that you've always asked, watu watataka kujua sana. It is true that people always mind packaging, starts from the colors going to the font, that's a little bit of branding though. Packaging in terms of even the material that is used, the importance of packaging is exactly what we're going to look into in the next few minutes. But then it's really interesting that when I was doing my own research about the same thing, two-thirds of people are really attracted to buying a produce depending on the packaging and branding. So you need to know that this is one of those things that if you decide to go the value addition way, you need to be informed about, because you cannot gamble with two-thirds of a population that is well informed. Their purchase power is their purchase behavior is well informed by the packaging and the branding of the produce. And first, one of the key reasons as to why you need to package your produce in a good way is, first, again, it's a basic one: protect against damages. But it's basic but very key. Things that are always very basic to us always somehow tend to slip us. We always feel as if see hii iko hapo tu, see, as long as I've met this, we move on swiftly. But you'll be shocked that some of those things that we know but we do not do are the things that slip us. And once they slip us, of course, wow, they become the difference between us and the people that we are meeting in the market. Remember, as I always say, the market is ruthless. However much it is not seen, the market is ruthless. And you should always compare yourself with the market that's out there, not the market that you're serving right now. Because again, it's just like COVID. I'll tell you this. It's just like COVID. Remember in 2019, actually COVID-19 was called COVID-19 because basically it did start in 2019, way back in China. And we used to hear, okay, there's a COVID thing that has happened, it's killing people, but it's in China, kabla haijafika Africa, oh my, it's gonna take some time. And then slowly, the world is a global, is more of a global quote-unquote village. Well, he went to Europe, and from Europe he came to Kenya, to Africa, and from Africa he came to Kenya. Within a span of actually even something close to 3 months, it had arrived here. And that's how the market is. You miss out on some of these basics, somebody else will see that opportunity and they're ruthless about it. Somebody else will come and look into some of the market gaps available in the market that you are currently in. You are maybe even the pioneer of the market as a farmer. We're putting ourselves in the trader's shoe of a farmer. This trader has farm produce on their feet, and today even as we talk about, protection against damage, which is more of the reason, first one key reason for packaging is first protection against transport specifically, while transporting, sorry. So while transporting, of course, there might be some, depends on what the method of transport is. I'm trying to think that you have your chicken right there, and you're planning to sell the eggs, and of course that's why a tray is always there for you. And at some point, even nyanyas right there, transporting that, even fresh vegetables at some point, those green leafy vegetables, once you're bringing them into the farm, you'll be quite interesting that actually in Kitengela there's some people who bring green vegetables from all the way from Kisii. It was quite interesting to find out that there's a type of vegetable called saga that comes from Kisii, and as we were talking last week with Mercy, she is familiar with the same. And wow, you'd be interested that some people do carry all the way from Kisii and bring it into the market, where you can now imagine first it has to be harvested, it has to be, transported all the way from Kisii to here. I'm trying to think it's more than 6 to 8 hours of transportation, and depending, this Kitengela, it's going to take some time to even arrive in Kitengela, even if hata kama imefika Nairobi. And above that, it has to take time to sort again, so that it can be exposed, of course, to some good to the open air market first. And of course, through all these things, this journey that this saga has gone through during transportation, packaging is very key. And it's very important to know the shelf life, quote unquote, of any produce that you're packaging. And this protects it against maybe damaging during transport. Maybe it's creating a conducive environment. Even you in your house, you always have some ventilators, and this ensures that at least you can continue breathing even when maybe there's there's more of carbon in the house. The same thing with just fresh produce. You need to make sure that there is some fresh air coming in and out. This air circulation, it's very important, because I do remember there was a time when we did carry stuff from here to Marsabit. We carried very many different types of produce, and of course cabbages, vegetables, green vegetables. We did carry cereals. You can imagine cereals can travel for years and years without getting damaged, as long as you've placed them well. Cabbages also did very well, but then once we reached there, some of these produce, you can feel that if we went for an extra day, it was not going to be really fine, because again, this was an enclosed, lorry, and on the road for more than 2 days, 2 complete days. And now you can imagine, actually it's even more than 2 days, and now you can imagine some fresh produce are always ready to go bad. And once you go bad, you lose the nutritional value, food waste right there. And of course, in the long run, the mission of you transporting is not reached, and also you also scale down on the profit margins. Now, it's very key to always ensure that once you are doing your packaging right, always understand the life, how some of these things do get damaged. It's always very, very important to know that, for example, nikiweka maybe hizi mboga zangu mahali kuna hewa, hazitaharibika mbio. Hewa baridi pia hazitaharibika mbio compared to cereals. And it's always good to always consider that even in our house, I'm sure we have some storage facilities. We have also some maybe fridge, somewhere right there. And in one of the shows we did show you how you can package your different produce in your fridge to make sure that it doesn't go bad so easy. So always ensure that while in transportation, while in handling, while in storage, you can ensure that you know how this thing goes bad, what makes it go bad. I want to ask you a really important question that maybe you've observed. Bread that comes from bread that has the carton type of the light carton material. For example, there's one traditional bread that has always maintained that for some time, and you try the new. I wouldn't say so new, but then the more of ordinary type of packaging that has always been there for our breads, where they use plastic bags, and you can also see the difference. One gets dry faster than the other one in the plastic bags, and it's quite interesting because bread, the how bread does get destroyed or maybe spoiled is by the mere fact that or what might lead to reduce or reduction of freshness of this bread, or even can make it hard. I will say in as simple as that. It's the air circulation. Bread doesn't. If you want to maintain bread doing fine, maybe you need to check into the air circulation. It doesn't need to have so much air coming inside and out. Also, you see bread that you leave open in an open type of packaging, and bread that you leave, actually even once you leave bread on your plate one day, you see it dries very fast compared to bread that is left on the paper. So it's always very important to always understand some of these these things, how things do get bad. So you'll see vegetables will do fine in open air. I'm a big fan of pears. I won't lie to you. I'm a big fan of pears, and I'm enjoying so much of this season. But way above that, pears do not love cold temperatures, extremely cold temperatures. That's what you're told maybe to preserve on the fridge, not inside the fridge, or if it's inside the fridge, to the temperatures that are very, very minimally cold. So you need to understand what gets spoiled by what conditions. So once you have that in mind, you'll know how you're going to package that. If it is, for example, meat, I'm trying to think that this meat somewhere, and this meat, you can now imagine that meat first always love not just cool, but a very cold temperature. Above that, it needs some very good some very good maybe clear packaging, that you can ensure that at some point, even in the handling bit of it, you know what meat is which, so that you do not go wrong when it comes to sorting, or maybe or even selling off. It's very important to always consider that. Even above that, it's always very good to understand that the humidity of substance can be very key. Humidity is the amount of, I would say, H2O, amount of water. Let me not scare you. The amount of water that is available in the atmosphere. And it's always very important to know that, maybe with so much humidity, this meat will go bad first. With so much humidity, with so less humidity, maybe this bread is gonna take some time to, get dry or reduce its freshness. So it's very important. And have you ever found? Actually, I was looking at how to preserve some beverages, and even how to even make sure that they go longer even after opening them up. And it was really interesting that if you store some beverages, actually many beverages, in dark places, they're going to stay longer. Don't ask me why, don't ask me how, but it was an interesting finding that in the presence of light, some of these beverages go bad faster. And even in terms of the temperatures, as you have said, it's always very important to know what temperatures do accelerate the function of the, I would say, the function of the, what makes that, that fresh produce bad. At some point you'll find out that bacteria are always very responsible for maybe the spoilage of a commodity like milk. That's why you'll find out that first, in storage of milk, they'll always create an airtight condition to always ensure that the microbiology, the the microbacteria do not have enough access to oxygen first, or access to air. Second thing, they do create a very cold environment so that the micro bacteria does not survive in cold temperatures. So another thing they do is ensure that you also, that thing they say, cool dry place. Cool dry place at some point might be even cool dry and dark places. Those factors are very key to making things, get spoiled first. So in your packaging, always ensure that the protection against damage might be physical or not physical. At some point might be even the longevity of the product to continue living, for the user to continue using it. One more thing that you need to also consider is that even the material that is, that you're trying to preserve, or the material that is carrying that farm, that produce, to break this down even a little bit closer to what we know, is that, for example, you always find that just look at e-commerce platforms, just look at even how supermarkets do their things, just look at how even shops do their things. What they do is, if it's fragile, they're gonna write it boldly, that it's fragile and you need to take care of it so that it doesn't, break up. One more thing that you need to understand about, packaging in terms of safety of the conditions is that first it needs to have expiry date on top, and it's not just something that we do for fun. It's a standard too. It's something that you need to consider every time that you're packaging your stuff. For example, so you even need not to package things that have different expiry dates on the same type of packaging. You can always segment and then package. So you need to have an expiry date. You also need to write down the ingredients. As a matter of fact, some of these products and some of these, I'm going to narrow down to, for example, some of the milk products on our shelves, on our supermarket shelves nowadays. You find out that they have, actually it's law that they should have maybe a warning sign or maybe a precautionary sign written that, is it lactose free, or does it accommodate people, even people who do not, who have cases of, who do not tolerate the lactose bit of it, because, well, people react differently to stuff. And at some point you can also see, just look at some of the beverage products on our shelves too. You can see that some of them, zimeandikwa no sugar, for example. They keep on looking, they used to pass very important messages, not just to let people know, but also as a standard procedure, as standard by the law also. One last thing, for example, we can talk about, it gives everything, the information about the brand. So even as you package your stuff, in order to protect against damages, it's always very important to always know that I need to consider first the transport bit of it, the handling bit of it, the storage, taking in consideration the humidity, the light, the heat that comes with it, also the safety which comes which comes with maybe the expiry dates, the ingredients, because actually manufacturers nowadays actually for a long time they've been asked to always label the ingredients that have been used to make some of those produce that we buy from the shelves. So you as a farmer trying to sell off your produce, it's very important to always write down the ingredients, and of course looking down even more into some of the standards that have been set, safety standards that have been set by the, of course, Bureau of of Standards. Now, one more thing that we need to talk about is now another thing for packaging is the attractiveness. Now, once you talk about attractiveness, this is where we bring the marketing and branding bit of it. Now, remember, you might have very good salespeople around you. You might have very good sales ability inside you, but then at some point the product needs to sell itself from wherever it is. Remember, if you're taking your produce maybe to the grocery, to the supermarket, to a shop, a retail shop, the product need to sell itself. You need to pass your thoughts through the product, and you need to target different clients through the product. Of course, it's very important to, even as you do your packaging, always ensure that the brand and marketing bit of it is well done. And this starts from, packaging is as important as the product itself. And I actually believe that because I'm part of the 2/3 of people who are influenced by the branding and packaging of stuff. If the packaging is not right, it brings in the thought of, so if you didn't have enough time to do something around your packaging, did you have time to even make the right quantity or the right quality of the produce that I'm buying? That is a question that many people, I'm sure, will also be asking themselves every time they're buying produce. And you can imagine also, there, as we've always said here at Farm Drive, there's always an alternative for your produce. There's always an alternative for your commodity, directly or indirectly. People will always try to look for ways to survive. So you need to always ensure that the branding and the marketing aspect in the packaging, bit of value addition or adding value to your produce is very key. Just shoot straight. I've gone to different supermarkets, and I want us to walk to that supermarket that you buy your produce from, you buy your home food from. You can imagine at some point, just go to different let me say yogurt manufacturers. Just look at how differently they brand their stuff. And maybe today I can challenge you to just go and look at the difference between packaging of these yogurt products. Some yogurt products are very flat. The branding is very flat. Some have even learned the art of doing it. And at some point, you'll find out that Kenyans do pick, even if putting money aside, Kenyans will always pick what has been branded well. And of course, it's very, very important to always take care of that aspect of, packaging, the attractiveness of the product on the shelf. Remember, the competition is right there. Your competition is always just close to you and right there next to you. So you need to draw a difference on the shelves, before you can go home. Because remember, the process of picking up produce starts from the process of buying starts from picking, and the process of using starts from picking from the shelves, not just taking it home and home and cooking. It does take different steps of doing that. So you have to win people from the first step of picking stuff from there and then taking it home, so that you can now go and sample. Many people always do love, now that we have not given them options of trying to see, okay, this product looks so good from the outside, and I'm trying to give a guarantee of doubt from even the inside, it's gonna be so fine. So people use their eyes and their conviction. So it's always very important to keep that, the branding bit of it. Now, as I said, 2/3 of people are influenced by the brand. You know, the branding bit of it. 2/3, that's 70%. You know, 70% of people are influenced by the brand the brand they see. So it's very important to always communicate the company's values, you know, through that, the company's activities. You know, it's always very good to always ensure that all the message is passed right. And you know, we have had different interviews with different manufacturers on the reason, their unique selling points in the market. And some, apart from of course the quality, some say that packaging is one of the most key aspects of how they target their market. Always go for the simplest, go for one of the simple, clear, you know, and inclusive type of packaging, you know, and branding. Of course, always ensure that the message that you want to pass is right in terms of, you know, the font of the words that you're using, the color of the words that you're using. Always ensure that you can understand the preference of the customer, what brings the customer closer. You can also pass the message that you want to pass, the company's message, through that brand. You can also look into the compliance bit of it. We're going to look into that, of course, everything that you know you need to consider way before you can hit the ground running and hit the road running. You know what you need to consider every time that you are, of course, thinking about branding as part of the packaging. We take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more about usability and sustainability.
Mahindi yamekuwa chakula kikuu katika sehemu nyingi za ulimwengu na jumla ya uzalishaji wa mahindi kuliko ile ya ngano au mchele. Mbali na kuwa mahindi ni chakula, pia hutumiwa kutengeneza ethanoli, chakula cha wanyama na bidhaa zingine. Kunayo mahindi ya gume, mahindi ya ganda, yani popcorn, mahindi ya unga na mahindi matamu. Mahindi yanalimwa sana kote ulimwenguni na kiwango kikubwa cha mahindi hutolewa kila mwaka kuliko nafaka nyingine yoyote. Shamba la mahindi linaweza kutayarishwa kwa kutumia njia za kawaida au za kilimo cha uhifadhi. Kilimo cha kuhifadhi ni pamoja na kunyunyizia dawa za kuulia wadudu zilizopendekezwa na wataalamu wa kilimo. Unaweza kutumia trekta au njia ya mikono kufanya kilimo cha mahindi. Ni muhimu kuandaa ardhi mapema ya kutosha kuruhusu magugu kukauka na kuoza kabla ya kupanda.
Beetroot is a highly nutritious root vegetable. The beetroot is the top proportion of a beet plant. It is one of the many varieties of the genus Beta vulgaris, all of which are mostly grown for their edible taproots and leaves. Beetroot is a root crop that takes approximately 3 to 4 months to mature. Beetroot is a fairly easy crop to grow as long as the soil is well cultivated prior to planting. Beetroots do not enjoy wet, boggy or shady soils. Beetroot can be sown in trays and transplanted when the seedlings have 2 true leaves. Plant in full sun, space seedlings 10 to 15 centimeters apart, and rows 20 centimeters to 30 centimeters apart so they have room to grow. Beetroots are also ideal for containers or raised beds. Beetroots will happily thrive in small areas as long as there is at least 20 centimeters depth of soil. Beetroot has been used not only for food but also for treatment for numerous conditions. Amaranthus, or locally known as Celery, is a highly nutritious vegetable that is cultivated and consumed as a leafy vegetable in many parts of the world. It's easy to grow, matures fast, as it takes an incredible shorter period than most traditional crops. There are many species of Amaranthus, with some green and others red in color. When growing Amaranthus, ensure the soil is well drained and rich in phosphorus, and most importantly, ensure the seeds are well distributed to achieve an even spread when establishing a green Amaranthus field. Amaranthus is especially loved for its tender leaves and for their healthy dose of ions, vitamins, and a range of minerals.
Agriculture is the art and science of cultivating the soil, growing crops, and raising livestock. Agriculture provides most of the world's food and fabrics. It is not only a source of food and income, but also creates employment opportunities for many people in the world. Over 1 billion people worldwide work in agriculture, generating 2.4 trillion for the global economy. The global impact of farming on the environment is revealed that 40% of the Earth's land is now given over to agriculture. Agricultural development is one of the most powerful tools to end extreme poverty, boost shared prosperity, and feed a projected 9.7 billion people by 2050. And we, the AFarmers Media, roll the carpet for you as we welcome you to our thrilling farm visits to different farmers that educate and inspire you in different sectors in agriculture. Catch us also on our shows on all our social media platforms as we bring you educative and informative information that will help you learn and guide you on your agriculture journey to success. Our farmers attain knowledge and grow profits.
A very warm welcome back to the second half of this conversation today with me, Brian Manda. The show, of course, is Farm Drive here at Africa Farmers Media, where we connect, learn, and grow. And of course, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful start of the week. It's quite interesting. It's on a Tuesday, starting the week on a Tuesday, because apparently Monday was a public holiday somehow. And I don't know what you've been doing over this weekend, the Easter long weekend. We hope that you've enjoyed it from wherever you have been. Is it maybe in your farm? Did you take a road trip? Did you invite friends, relatives in your home? Did you go to their home maybe? What did you do? Did you go shopping? Did you go do something? That's all we want to know today. Of course, you can reach us at Africa Farmers Media here at Facebook. We're also streaming live on YouTube at Africa Farmers Media or AFarmers Media. Above that, also on Facebook, back to Facebook. We're also streaming live on Africa Farmers Club. We're also on Africa AFarmers on Twitter, AFarmers on Instagram, and LinkedIn too. We are almost everywhere in this social media space. That's what we do best. So today's conversation, we've been saying, is all about packaging. How packaging can be effective for you. How packaging can be the difference between you and that extra coin that you want to make. Of course, before we took a short commercial break, we did define what packaging is, and I'm sure you know that. And we did say that packaging does help in protection against damages during transportation, during handling, during storage, with considerations in mind about humidity, light, and heat. We also did talk about the safety of the packaging, and this is under protection, under the damages. So the safety comes in terms of the safety of the standards. We talk about the expiry, talk about the ingredients that were used, and some of these basic things that the government has laid to manufacturers, who package this and also who label this, to ensure that, for example, if you're selling off milk produce and products, you've at least indicated if it's lactose free or it can be used by anyone. So Absolutely. So this is what we've been talking about. We did talk also about branding and marketing as an aspect of packaging. So the attractiveness of the package, starts from fur. Always remembering that two-thirds of the population in the world is somehow, informed by the packaging of the produce that you've put on the shelves. So this ensures that you, of course, stand a better chance compared to your competitors. Now, as I said, two-thirds or 70% of the population, of the world population, is well manipulated. You can just imagine you have a chance to manipulate the person who is possibly going to buy your produce by the packaging and the branding. Just that you have the ability to, inform their buying habit. Another thing we did talk about is that in the packaging, it does give you, and of course in the attractiveness of the brand, once you talk about branding and marketing, it gives you an opportunity to communicate your company's values and activities on the brand. So it's always an added advantage that if you can do all these things, well, they'll be very good for you. So we go on with the usability bit of it. Now, I want to bring your attention to this. The world is growing greener, and of course, it's very, very important to always know that there are regulations that are being set aside. We are close to, I would say, 5 months, 6 months from the G7 meeting, from the COP26 meeting, COP26 meeting. G7, well, G7 has its own owners. So COP26 meeting, where the world did convene and talk about the way forward. And it's very important to always know that during the COP26 meeting conference, there were very many commitments from different players in different spaces, manufacturers, governments, promises that by 2030, by 2050, the carbon emission, will eventually be something that we're going to forget about, and be something of the past. And it is always very important to, think about the kind of material that you're using in packaging during a period where even, this is how it's done. You go to such a summit, COP26, you go to World Environment Summits, and more of the topics that do dominate the World Environment Summits, it's the climatic changes and how the world can also cut down on the carbon emissions. And part of the carbon emissions also, is policies that have been set aside. And policies ensure that, for example, the waste material, the waste material that we do, of course, observe. Just look around you, just look closer to you. Maybe you'll find one. You'll find that paper that is non-biodegradable, You look at that container that is non-biodegradable. You're very, very sure. You're very, very sure that it's not going to degrade. It's not going to decompose. And you're sure about that. Then why leave it on on the soils? It's also destroying the soil structures, and the soil structures, when they're destroyed, even it's affecting so much, even the type of the nutritional value of the soil that we're having, the structure of the soil, it does change very many things. And one of the largest problems very many cities are facing, very many towns, very many urban centers, not only in the country, but also in the world. Talk about Africa. Talk about even those places you think they don't suffer. They are suffering from waste disposal. But when you talk about waste can be disposable or bio-waste, or So waste can be degradable, which is, we're talking about the bio waste, which can be, of course, you can go put it in maybe in a compost pit, or compost site, and then in the process decomposes. We can throw it in our farms and stuff, and the ecosystem is a complete circle. But then people are running away from plastics, and one of these ways of people running away from plastics is, for example, the ban of the plastic bags that was implemented onto the kids in the year 2014, 2015, if I can remember right, or 2016 or around there, where plastic bags were no longer set to be used, in the retail business. That was a way of curbing, even the soil, what we are doing to our soils, because this is how it does destroy. This is how it does destroy our lives. I would say that we've always sung about the ozone layer and what, but still we're here, 21st century, the year is 2022, we are experiencing the leveraging droughts, the effect of climatic changes. Every time these companies creating designs, creating packages, that are going to be used by people out there, by consumers, most of these companies have not usually had a second thought on the disposal mechanism of this. Is it reusable? Is it something that is decomposable? Is it recyclable? Does it have a way that, it's easy to even throw away? And more of these food companies, more of these beverage companies have really faced the full wrath of people and full wrath of the law. And at some point, there's been so much pressure from some of the leading beverage companies, some that you're not going to mention. They've invested so much in the promise of, ensuring that there's a way around waste disposal, and even the reusage, the recycling aspect of all this, and the disposability of some of these produce and material they do make. And it's something that people are looking, the world is going, it's going greener. Just actually, during this short commercial break that we did take, I was just going through some of the information that is coming in, and it's really interesting seeing that even Kenya by itself is ordering more than 2,000 motorbikes that are electric bicycles, motorcycles, coming from all the way from China. And you can imagine the world will always go greener. Just look at the fuel crisis that we had just the other day. It's clearing. The cost is just clearing right now. But then, as the dust, continues to settle, one of those things that we have come to realize that is that alternatives is something that we always need to look into. And one of the alternative for packaging is ensuring that even as we find the alternatives, we have materials that can be recycled, can be repurposed, can be, for example, if you burn it down, the world doesn't burn things down right now because somehow there are very many gases and there are very many emissions that do come from Earth, and of course, does go and destroys the ozone layer. But then about that, we need to always consider that as a sustainability model. Ask yourself, just go to the supermarket. I want you to take yourself to the supermarket today. Just look at the modern ways of people packaging their meat nowadays. Did you know that, for example, the reason for how meat is being packaged back in a butchery? Ever asked why? and it's always very good to, even before you can open up a butchery one day, maybe you can, before you can open up a meat joint somewhere, always understand some of these things and where the world is moving to. And this will spare you so much time, energy, and money against fighting with the authorities. As I said, authorities are making policies towards a greener economy, but then that's the much we can do, and we don't want to continue blaming the government for the climatic changes and stuff. I think how human is always created. Fair enough, one would want to reason with me and have a different opinion, but I think the human mind is always created to always rely. It's always a very comfort zone. You can always create. You can sit back and ensure that somebody else does. So there's always so much blame game. But then once you wake up from the wake up call, from your slumber, of course, one day is when you will see that at some point it's not everything that we do love doing that is right. It's not everything that we want is always given to us. So at some point, it's always very, very important to always consider that even in the war against the climatic changes, in the war against the emissions of gases and the emissions of carbon in specific, that the war might be a little bit expensive, the war might be a little bit, tough, but then the end game is always bigger than what we're seeing right now. And it's very important, even as we do create the material that we're going to use for packaging, maybe our pineapples, packaging our meat, packaging different stuff. Nowadays there is even carbon credits that do come from, you as a farmer can also benefit from carbon credits. Really interesting. The world is going greener, and even the packaging that you're having may be going greener too. Can it be recycled? Does it have a good principle that is going to reduce the carbon emission? That by that we talk about the carbon footprint. So it's very important to always consider that. Look around you. Look around you. Look at what does not decompose around you, and this will ensure that you're going to see that it's not the government that alone that can lead the war against the destruction of our environment that's leading to the climatic changes, which is coming back to farmers. We farmers, because of delayed rainfalls, for example, at some point even we go for seasons without rains. We just from a drought. We are currently still in a drought. There are very many adverts running on your different media channels, talking about an empty plate, an empty plate for different people. It's the effects, it's the leveraging effects of droughts. And these droughts are as a result of, the changing weather patterns. These changing weather patterns are predominantly or majorly affected by the carbon emissions that we continue to give back to the atmosphere. The mere fact that we do not see this happening doesn't change the fact that it's happening. It does. And at some point, we need to always wake up. We need to have a wake-up call to, we as farmers, we need to look into better ways of, how everybody can play a part in reducing the carbon emissions and destroying our own environment. Soil structures, as we've said, very, very important. So even as you do create what you're creating as a packaging tool for the produce that you want to take to the farm, always ask yourself, this consumer, just think that you're the only, it's like a driving school. It's like you're the only one who is sober in this supply chain. You're the only one who is sober in this space. So, but knowing that, that you're thinking through the process of, by the way, that person is going to atakula too and then atatupa. And in the process, you have to think, okay, see, if he's going to throw away, do you want to meet your produce, your package one day lying somewhere in a stage, somewhere in somebody's farm, you know, we need to think about where we're going, and that's a very key component. Once we talk about branding, or sorry, once we talk about packaging of our produce, way before we can visit the market. One more thing, of course, still close to the same thing, is the usability aspect, where it does fit to the purpose. So try and think this way. You see, some of these things that we do buy, you know, are more of, at some point, actually, which is more even ready to use, is always packaged in a way that it's ready to use, it's ready to fit to purpose. Oh, for example, kama ni pale kwa yogurt, utapata the opening is slightly narrow compared to the body, because maybe how we serve it might be different. If it's, for example, different things that we do buy, I'm not going to mention everything, but then does it fit to the purpose? Is it user friendly? For example, if I'm trying to think that you're thinking of opening up a very small or even a very big, you know, fast food right there somewhere, maybe you can think about a carton. Those packages that are made out of the light carton materials, you know, for maybe doing your chips, for example. So that by that, you know that, for example, you're going to first, it's made out of paper. It's made up out of timber at some point. So first thing, even the decomposing bit of it, it's not going to be a little bit hard. It's going to burn very easy. It's not going to emit so much. You know, above that, also, it can be reused. You know, it can be reused as an envelope somewhere else. You know, putting in some cereals or maybe something else. And just look at the magic that happened after the burning of the plastic materials. Nowadays, we have very many bugs in our homes, in our kitchens and stuff. So many of them, and that has scaled down on the ability of us trying to see how we can, you know, manage our environment. So does it fit to purpose? Is it user friendly? You know, is it simple to open and close? One of those things I've always asked myself, you know, I won't lie to you, is for example, some beverage, some energy drinks, you know, that are canned. Well, I don't know why it's always hard for, you know, manufacturers to create a way that you can still open and close. But some of these products that once you open, you're done. You have to finish up, or maybe you have to transfer to another can. So even as you create your packaging, you know, items that you're going to put maybe some milk inside and sell, or maybe something, always ensure that, you know, it's going to be easy for the person going to use it. Always put yourself in the customer's shoe. Another way is to ensure that it can be reused, you know, can be recycled. And actually, even on the video that you're seeing right there, you know, some of the packages that you can use, some of the packages that have been used, for example, the eggs, you know, very easy to take up and, well, move ahead, you know. Well, I'll give you one interesting fact, that even in vitu kama pombe, alcohol, you will see that different manufacturers have always tried to change their packaging after some time, even after 100 years, you know, after 50 years, after 25 years, you see that they are changing their packaging. It's not that they are tired of the package. At some point, it's the applicability of the package to the normal person's life. Oh, it's always very good to always ensure that some of those things that you can see on your screens right now, that we can package towards, you know, achieving something close to that. Look at the meat, of course, how it is packaged. You know, once you're done with the plastic container, you know, you can reuse it you can clean it up and also maybe use it somewhere else. it's by the standards at some point, but then above that, it's even for the human interest that, 50 years down the line, 100 years down the line, what is that environment that you're going to leave for your children and grandchildren? Or some of the challenges that, they will always remember that, the older generation that was there didn't do enough in terms of reducing the wastage, of course. And that's why the recycling bit of it has always been advocated for. So as you've seen from that slide that was created, that different things can be packaged differently. Come on, Inyanya, always know the temperatures, understand what they want. Is it light, for beverages, the for example, the kama ni maziwa, the temperatures. If it's the meat, maybe above the temperatures, maybe you can do it a little bit airtight to ensure that maybe there's no direct, maybe fast air circulation that comes in and out, which promotes the bacteria's activity, and very many things that we have seen from that. Of course, this is Africa Farmers Media, and what we do continue doing, so always ensuring that we continue informing you, because while here as a farmer, we'll always show you the difference between you and, of course, the farmer that you aspire to be. So always look around what is being offered by different manufacturers. Look around what is being offered by your competitors. Look at what informs some of the packaging. Don't just copy. It's always good to always take time and understand if it's the milk. If you want to get in the milk subsector, angalia, take time and look. Oh, but they always do this because of this. But then, if you want to manipulate the type of material that you're of course packaging with, you can now manipulate it. But then, with the basics of maybe temperatures, with the basics of humidity, with the basics of light and everything, once you have that in mind, well, you're always ready to go. Of course, now we're going to take a short commercial break. And before we can actually take a short commercial break, always know that the type of seed that you put on the soils always informs the type of crop that you're going to have, and which also later determines the type of produce at the end of the day that you're going to harvest. So it's always important that during this planting season, where people are planting right now, right now when the rain's back, people are always considering boosting their seeds. Once you do boost most of the cereal seeds, that ensures that the root density of your roots of your crops are going to be fine. And one of the best products that has been placed on the market shelves today on any agrovet right now is Omnia Seed Boost. That does ensure that you first have a quality seed. Second thing, the root density. The root density always ensures that it has proper uptake of water and nutrients any day that the roots grow. And then above that, it ensures that you have even sweet fruits that have proper nutritional value from the soil. Always remember that what we achieve from the soil at some point brings out what we achieve during the harvesting period. So always go to any agrovet, ask for Omnia Seed Boost this planting season, and ensure that you've boosted your seed by of course Omnia's Seed Boost. But the commitment that they keep on telling you is that they understand the science of growing. And of course, now you can also visit their social media platforms at Omnia East Africa, where you're going to talk about where you can ask questions, of course, and know how Omnia Seed Boost works and many other products they have on the shelves. We take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more.
Mahindi yamekuwa chakula kikuu katika sehemu nyingi za ulimwengu na jumla ya uzalishaji wa mahindi kuliko ile ya ngano au mchele. Mbali na kuwa mahindi ni chakula, pia hutumiwa kutengeneza ethanoli, chakula cha wanyama na bidhaa zingine. Kunayo mahindi ya gume, mahindi ya ganda, yaani popcorn, mahindi ya unga na mahindi matamu. Mahindi yanalimwa sana kote ulimwenguni na kiwango kikubwa cha mahindi hutolewa kila mwaka kuliko nafaka nyingine yoyote. Shamba la mahindi linaweza kutayarishwa kwa kutumia njia za kawaida au za kilimo cha uhifadhi. Kilimo cha kuhifadhi ni pamoja na kunyunyizia dawa za kuulia wadudu zilizopendekezwa na wataalamu wa kilimo. Unaweza kutumia trekta au njia ya mikono kufanya kilimo cha mahindi. Ni muhimu kuandaa ardhi mapema ya kutosha kuruhusu magugu kukauka na kuoza kabla ya kupanda.
Eggplant is a popular versatile vegetable that is glossy and purple in color. When it's cut, you will find a meaty white flesh dotted with small clusters of beige seeds. The unripe fruit is consumed as a cooked vegetable. Eggplant is a multitasker that can take on different and delicious forms. Eggplants are a great source of vitamins and minerals.
Celery is a marshland plant that comes from the same family as carrots and parsley. It has long, firm and pale green fibrous stalks and grows in bunches of approximately 8 to 10 centimeters. The stalks taper into leaves at the top. When planting celery, it's best to ensure that the soil is enriched with compost and with a soil pH of between 5.8 to 6.8. It is also important for celery to grow in moisture-retentive soil. Lastly but not the least, select a site that receives full and direct sunlight. Celery needs about 130 to 140 days to mature between seedling and harvest. Growing celery is generally considered to be an ultimate vegetable gardening challenge. It's easy to grow, but has very specific needs.
Pesticides can be very harmful to humans and environment if they're not properly handled. Safe handling of pesticides involves proper selection and careful handling during mixing and application. However, as useful as they are, they're inherently toxic. Here are some ways you can handle pesticides for your own safety, your farms, and the people around you.
We are looking at reduced accumulation of obsolete pest control products in the country as one. We are also looking at the associated conservation of environment and also protection, conservation of beneficial insects such as pollinators and predators, which are used to control other pests.
Before you use the pesticide, read the label and leaflet carefully. Measure the required quantity of pesticide.
You have to have adequate clean water for the mixing. Adequate meaning enough to dilute the pesticide and also enough to do the cleaning of the equipment and yourself after the application. During the mixing process, you are also supposed to be wearing your personal protective equipment or PPE, and this is to avoid exposure to the pesticides.
Applicators and handlers need to wear appropriate personal protective equipment specified on pesticide product labels by pictogram. In hot and humid climates, the wearing of additional protective clothing may be uncomfortable, and pesticides should therefore be applied during the cooler hours of the day. Care should be taken not to touch any part of the body with gloves while handling pesticides. Avoid spillage and prepare spray fluid in well-ventilated area. Do not eat, drink or smoke when handling pesticides. Check the spray equipment before use for any leakages and accurate delivery of spray solution. The nozzle should be directed to the side, away from the body. This prevents applicators walking into the spray cloud or recently sprayed foliage. Inspect equipment regularly for leaks. Leaking equipment should be repaired and the skin should be washed after any accidental contamination. While applying pesticides, be sure to follow application instructions precisely. More is not better. Unnecessary and/or incorrect application can result in exceedance of maximum residue levels, which can make the produce unmarketable.
All consumers want to eat safe food. So whenever there is an issue of what we call exceedance of pesticides, or what we call maximum residual levels of a particular pesticide, then what happens is that the market becomes very concerned, because they want to assure their consumers that they are eating safe food, which basically is healthy. And then what they will do is that they are going to discontinue the supply of the products that you're exporting.
In contrast, responsible and correct pesticide use following good agricultural practices protects the crop and keeps residues within acceptable limits required for sale. Incorrect application of pesticides can damage the crops and have a negative effect on human health and the environment.
The vision is basically to ensure that we can bring as many farmers to understand the importance of safe use of pesticides, to understand the institutions that are involved in regulation of pesticides, to understand that pesticides, when used well, will support production or increase production, and more importantly, the risks associated to the environment from pesticides.
Once you've finished applying the pesticides on target crops, empty the spray tank completely after spraying. Spray any remaining spray mix on the ground of the treated crop. Triple rinse and puncture the empty pesticide containers and place this in a safe place for disposal. Ask your supplier or agro dealer about a collection scheme. Clean the spray equipment immediately after use. Decontaminate protective clothing and footwear through following proper laundering or cleaning instructions. Wash the hands and body thoroughly with soap water. A sprayed field must be marked and unauthorized entry should be prevented. In case of suspected poisoning, please refer to the label for instructions and call the poison center on toll-free line indicated on the label. Report the specific pesticide used. Mishandling pesticides could have adverse effects on not only plants but also humans and the environment. Proper care and instructions should be adhered to always. Farmers are advised to attend available trainings on good agricultural practices and pesticide use within their counties to ensure safety while handling pesticides. Remember, proper usage of pesticides increases yields and market access for your produce. Food safety is everyone's responsibility, starting with the farmer. Dawa bora, mazao bora.
A very warm welcome back to, of course, the final stretch of this show. The show is Farm Drive here at Africa Farmers Media with me, Brian Munda. Today I'm solo. I'm writing solo, but of course the information that's coming, it's coming thick and fast. as good as you can always get it. We're talking about branding today, and why branding is always important, and of course about even the branding, the packaging aspect of it, why it is very, very important to ensure that you have these right. Of course, before we did take the commercial break, we've been talking about the importance of branding. It does protect you against damages that are caused during transportation, handling, and storage. It's also good for safety, attractiveness. Why we do talk about the branding and also the marketing aspect. We do also talk about the sustainability of the material. Of course, can it be reused? Can it be recycled? Then above that, we did talk about the usability. Does it fit the customer that you're targeting? All these things are bringing together something that we will have to narrow down to this. First, understanding your TA, understanding your target audience preference. Remember, as a business, TA is the most important. Remember what they say, that the customer is always right. So you have to make sure that at least the customer is always right in packaging and branding what you're doing, what you're selling, of course, from your farm. It's very, very important. Does it fit their interest? Can they recycle? Can they reuse? Very, very important to think about that. Wakinunua hii container baadaye si bado wanaweza endelea kuitumia tu even after the produce inside is done. Well, that will always ensure that they have double value in what they're buying. Second thing is your brand. You always need to pass your brand's I would say your brand's image through the packaging of the product. And actually it is quite interesting, even as we talk about the packaging of your brand, the packaging, of course, of the products, and passing the information that you want to send out there about your brand in the package and on the package. It's always very important to have this in mind, that the company needs to sell itself any day that it's out there. Always leverage on the opportunity that you have when the product is out there. It's meeting different people, attracting different a number of people are seeing it. Well, do they take time and see? Do they take time and know what you stand for as a brand? Second, that thing is about the product. The product is very, very important in what we do. The product must sell itself. This is why you bring in the ingredients that were used, even the coolness of the brand. But the people can just buy something, because basically of the branding and the packaging that you have can be even the difference between you and other people who are selling off the produce. One more thing you need to also know is that what you need to protect the product from, is it physical damage, is it bio damage, maybe decomposition or something. It's always very important to always consider that. Another thing you also need to think about is the standards of compliance. So kama ni nyama, jua kwamba gazeti leo haitumii kufunga nyama. It's something that you need to know and moving forward. Know the standards that are set by the relevant regulatory authorities next to you, and the standards that are set by different bodies in the products that you plan to sell from your farm. Another last thing that you always need to consider is the budget. The budget is very, very important in thinking ahead, knowing that if you're going to produce for volume business, and maybe the packaging does not bring in so much money, always start with what you can. So the budget will always, budget comes last, as I would want to say. You better have the message right, about your brand, about your products to your TA, also protecting it from, different things that you're trying to protect it during packaging, and also the standards. Then think about the budget. Budget always comes last. And now, some of the hacks of packaging your produce. First, the color. Color is always very important in attracting different people to come buy your produce. This is it. If you're selling produce that is meant for example, ladies in the market, you might think about colors that do attract ladies and ladies can relate to. Well, your guess is as good as mine. Pink, that's so good. Maybe some bit of purple. I don't know. You guys, I'm sure you have your favorite colors, but it's always very good to always consider the colors in terms of gender. Men will have a little bit of dark. I would want to say. I would want to think too. About also the age. Children do love yellow. I don't know if you know that, but children do love yellow. That does inform so much about the packaging of the products children do buy from. Another thing is also the competition. Always look into the competition, what the competitor has on the market in terms of the colors, and maybe you can be the difference, or you can also sail along. Another key thing about the colors is even the sector. Coming from the agricultural sector, you can think about green for crops, you can think about dark brown for maybe meat products, you can think about different things that you plan to. If it's milk, you can think about, well, white, all these things have been used to always ensure that your branding is right. Then above colors, there's also the shape. And I found out this today. I never knew about that carved bottles always, somehow target ladies in the market. Well, for obvious reasons that you and I can guess about the same thing. But carved bottles in the market are meant to target ladies for some reason or the other. But for men, I think sisi ndo wale wenye tunanunua vitu zenye ziko flat too, as they are, because again our design samples are always very simple. Our taste is always not so complicated, and we don't believe in so complicated stuff in terms of the shape. So always look into the of course the shape of what you're selling. If it's meant for ladies, well, think about playing something around the shape. Another thing you need to do is also send a clear message. Is the message so clear in terms of the branding and packaging? Can somebody look at that and know, that's meat right there, that's milk right there, and that's green vegetables as you can see them. Those are nuts as you can see them. Those are bananas, Always look into that. And last thing that you have to look into is the material, of course, of the packaging that you're having, the packaging that you plan to, of course, to make. Well, metal, you can use a little bit of metal in maybe things that you're sure that you don't want them to be physically distorted. If it is, for example, if it's bread, if it's material that you've baked, think about what makes it go bad fast, what makes it go dry fast again, what is a threat to its freshness, of course, in the market. So that will ensure that you have some good packaging in terms of the material that you're going to use. And of course, this will even ensure that even the different classes that you target, while gold can be targeting maybe the premium products, silver can target the lesser premium products. It's branding and packaging is where people do get it right or wrong. So of course, that has been a topic that is always very key. Once you talk about value addition, very important to always think about that. And it's very, very important to think forward and be the difference in the market. Of course, that is all we can talk about from today's topic, branding and packaging from the farmer's aspect. All those things are things that you need to consider While of course doing that, always remember your target audience, what they want, their preferences, their taste. Always remember your brand should be represented too. Always remember the product should be, the product in terms of ingredients and everything are well labeled on the product. Then what you need to protect it from, that will ensure the material, the kind of material that you're going to use, the standards of compliance. Tafadhali tusiweke nyama kwa gazeti. Always know why they did that for some reason. And then the last thing that you should also always consider is then the budget. Once you have all that in mind, always now consider the budget. Now, that's all we can say today's topic has been. We hope that you've been a little bit more informed than than you came actually. I too have been in the process of learning, as a farmer too, have been in the process of learning, knowing that next time, before I can take my produce out there, I can do something on the branding. It doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be very, we have gone an extra mile in packaging that, but as long as it's sharp in the market, it's competitive, and it's targeting different people in the right way, we have it right. Now, of course, the last segment, of course, of Farm Drive is always looking into some of these things that are happening, some of those things that are breaking, from different sections of this country, different corners of this country. And of course, earlier on, we had some story about the police arrest on 3 people who have been suspected to be behind the brutal flogging of a woman and her son in Ringa, Homa Bay County. This follows a video that did circulate on social media platforms of people beating up, a woman and her son. 3 people who are suspected to be in that fiasco have been arrested today, and now they have been, of course, they have been convicted. They have been arrested and put behind their cells today. Pending, a court case, appearance in front of the court, becoming coming hours. Actually, we'll be looking more into that. Actually, today we've been discussing with a few friends of mine about the importance of social media, because some of these things we will not have known them. And at a time where the opposition was not so active in the last 5 years, social media has been one very key component in Kenyans fighting for themselves. We were left out there in the cold, but social media is one key aspect which has led to the arrest of these 3 suspects who are behind the brutal flogging of a woman and her son in Ringa, Homa Bay County. Still on the on the Nyanza region, where on the ongoing ODM polls, party primaries, where ex-Kisumu Deputy Governor Ruth Odinga, I believe this is the sister to Azimio flag bearer, of course, Raila Odinga, was forced to flee from Urudi Primary School in Nyakach after chaos erupted and 1 person was injured. One thing that has come out so clearly during these party primaries is that there has been so much up and down, so many dramatic cases, in the party primaries, because in some places of where some of these parties are strongholds in, there's always going to be drama, because once you get that party ticket, it gives you 1 foot into the next, of course, the next round of leadership, that comes after the August 9th polls. Above that, also on the ongoing UDA party primaries, by UDA I mean United Democratic Alliance. Now UDA has cancelled nominations in Nairobi, opting for opinion polls. The news I can only report, but opinion polls has been a way that some Kenyans, some political parties have also made their decisions on giving direct tickets negotiated democracy, opinion polls. Let's see, is it an effective way? While many people will want to say different things about that, some will dispute, some will say, well, it's something that works. But it's up to you to always make the opinion and decision by yourself. Now on to the last story that we're going to talk about today is that the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority of Kenya has sanctioned 4 petrol stations for offering fuel above the recommended ceiling price as part of the investigations into Kenya's fuel shortage crisis. Of course, more is that 4 retail stations are in Migori, Kehancha, of course, Awendo, and Isibania towns. Of course, at the moment, the Ministry of Petroleum is reporting the normalization of fuel supplies and operations of petrol stations, even as pockets of stocks out persist in some parts of the country. Of course, I don't know where you're coming from, if there is enough fuel coming in and also being retailed at the nearest petrol station. But it is quite interesting that 4 petrol stations have been summoned. And remember in her address back in Thursday last week, the Petroleum and Mining CS, actually should be the Petroleum and Energy CS, did talk about Juma did talk about that there were going to be investigations against petrol stations that have been selling during this fuel crisis, have been selling fuel above the recommended price, because again the government has always subsidized the fuel prices, but then some of these companies did go ahead and sold fuel at a higher cost. And now it is time for the government to take action against some of these petrol stations. Remember, this comes at the back of the deportation of Robi's Kenya CEO, or I would say the former CEO of Robi's, for quote unquote, according to the Ministry of Energy, saying that they were trying economic sabotage. They were hoarding the fuel product, and of course they say that there are very many millions of liters of petrol that of course are in the reserves right now, and of course are ready to hit the ground running. So more and more will continue building up, and of course we're going to look into what maybe oil marketers are going to say about the situation. The government says the subsidy program is now up and running, and but the 72 hours period that the Energy CS did talk about on Thursday, that the 72 hours that was given to petrol stations, I would say quote unquote the return to the normalcy of the fuel supplying and transportation from the different reserves, and more so the coastal reserves, to here to different petrol stations. The 72 hours have lapsed, and of course we just continue to look into how the government continues to respond to this, of course cushioning the customers and Kenyans against the rising fuel crisis, of course the rising fuel cost, the crisis that comes with it. Of course, above that, the IMF, the IMF has, done something. It has downgraded the economic, the projected economic development, economic percentage growth. Now, this means that International Monetary Fund. This means the International Monetary Fund, which is the IMF, ensures they do surveys, they do statistics, they do analysis on the economic outlook globally, and even in terms of the country, different sectors. But IMF says that the global economy was projected to grow by 6.1% worldwide, but now it has been downgraded to 3.6%, majorly because of the war that is ongoing. And they say these are the effects of the war. You can remember the disruption of the supply chain from, of course, Russia and Ukraine, the two countries that are fighting. And this has meant that the fuel crisis continues and continues. The fuel prices continue to even rise higher and higher. The exports and the imports that were going on in between the two countries and other trade partners, the trade right now, I'm sure the trade balance in different countries compared to Russia and Ukraine, as partners right now, I'm sure there's no trade balance. It's really doing bad. There's a deficit more so on the Ukraine side or maybe the Russian side. And very many countries have been relying on fuel, have been relying on some agricultural produce, for example, wheat that comes from Ukraine and Russia. And this has led to, disruption of the quote-unquote the economic recovery. Remember, we are from the COVID-19 menace, where different economies are on their feet, trying to, walk again. After, of course, COVID-19 did come and slash, of course, I would say it did cripple, the economic progressions and did affect the global economic outlook. And this means that right now, the economic impacts of the war, of the continuing geopolitical war happening between Ukraine and Russia, it does continue, the global economy will be affected. And so far, according to the International Monetary Fund, 6.1% was the projection that was given at the start of the financial year or the fiscal year. Well, right now, they are downgrading it to 3.6% economic growth. So this is not such a good it's not such a good sign out there. But up and thinking, we'll continue praying for the two countries to find a consensus, and so that the global economy can continue to can go back to the path of economic recovery. That has been all from the Farm Drive show here with me, Brian Mwenda, where we do speak and talk about value addition. We do talk about post-harvest practice once you have your produce at your hand and on your hand. So what's next? And today we've been exploring the option of packaging, how you should do your packaging, always what you need to consider in your head before you can actually move forward, before you can hit the market. So it's very important to always think about all these things. So that is it from me. I want to also thank you for being part of this show, taking your time and watching this show. I can appreciate more. I can say more. Thank you very much. And also the team that is behind this live production. I want to salute you for being part of this show and making sure that it is a success. Until tomorrow, we say continue consuming information, because it's the difference between you and the farmer you aspire to be.